Hello, welcome to the second session in the third week of our discussions on field sales management. After yesterday's discussions on some common sense points about the sales encounter or the sales presentation, today I am going to present to you some models and some structures of the actual sales call and how that should be handled for more efficient closing, for more efficient winning the order process. The first point I make here in the slide that you see in front of you, in the title of the slide, that the sales presentation is not a linear process, but it must respond to situational needs. Which means that, as we discussed yesterday, you should rehearse, you should make preparation, you should anticipate customers' objections or questions, you should prepare your answers. All of these you should do. Don't short circuit that process. Because the more you prepare, the more you think about it, better prepared you will be when that situation comes up. But yet, do not try to follow your script, something that you have planned during the sales call, but keep that going. But be prepared to jump the queue, be prepared to respond and then again get back to your flow. So, situational response flexibility is very important. So, as you see, you have in the fourth block in the presentation issues relating to products, marketing and value proposition. But sometimes this will not follow this sequence, and therefore you have to have I'm going to come to the other stages like 5th, 5th, 6th, trial, close, objections, meet objections, trial, close, all those will follow. But let me focus a little bit more on the adaptive part of your presentation. So, as you see here, there are different kinds of situations. Salesperson to the buyer, this is one-to-one. Salesperson to the buyer group, this is one-to-many. Sales team to the buyer group, this is many-to-many. There can be a conference type of selling, seminar type of selling. All these are different types of communication situations that can happen. To respond, the salespersons over the years have developed some standard approaches. The one which is obvious is the memorized selling. Then there is formula selling. Then there is need satisfaction oriented selling and problem solution based selling. These are all ways to structure your sales encounter, the actual sales call. And the key point I want to make with this slide is that there are different approaches, but it's just like a toolbox. So, there will be a hammer, there will be a chisel, there will be a screwdriver, there will be a wrench. And remember that different problems, different situations lend themselves to different tools. So, do not see the world through the hammerman's eye. That means don't make everything, every problem, every objection to something that you can hammer. Use different tools at different times in the same way. That is to say that use different approaches, mix and match the approaches as the situation demands. So as I mentioned again, situational response flexibility, and therefore you can use this. But let's look at what are these different approaches. However, whatever approach you are taking, this is a slide which kind of says that this is a kind of fundamental. As you see here, that in the approach stage, it shows on the y-axis the participation time, and on the x-axis it shows presentation. So you can see that during the presentation time, the customer talking time, which is actually on the lower side, and the salesperson talking time. So as you see, there are this diagram as it shows, there is a good balance from left to right to left to right, which means that this is like a good conversation. That means you are allowing, you are talking, and then you are listening. Then you are talking, and then you are listening. So allow the customer enough time to talk without interruption coming from you. Don't cut short the customer's points. Don't show that you have already anticipated this point, so immediately jump into the answer. Let the customer elaborate on the problem description, and then you can bring in your response. But because you have something coming up which is already anticipated, do not cut short the process. So allow this flow of talk, listen, to happen, and allow sufficient time, more time to the customers to talk. Let us look at the different types of selling approaches, the standard models, and when to use which model. So for example, the memorized sales presentation. This is also sometimes called the canned presentation. So it's like, a canned food. You just open the can and you get exactly the same thing. Now this should not be ignored. In this, there is not much of response flexibility to start with. In the canned sales approach or memorized sales presentation, there isn't enough leeway to start with. And because there isn't enough leeway, you can actually have a standard script. And it is very effective when there is a very short time window available in the opening part of the encounter. So you are actually doing door-to-door sales, and somebody has just opened the door, and you have that opening half a minute or 1 minute in which you have to create the interest in the buyer's mind for further discussion. So for non-technical items like books or cooking utensils or cosmetics, this is a very efficient way of approaching the customer. So you have some well-researched points that you need to bring out. Of course, that point remains that your opening gambit should also follow the FAB approach. That means don't start with the product features, but start with some challenges and some problems, and then talk about the advantages and benefits offered by your product or service, and that how it is actually brought out through different features. So this benefit and advantage leading to the F, the feature, is a guideline in creating the canned presentation, but keep it short, keep it very crisp and to the point, so that you make the maximum utilization of that short opening window in this type of the memorized sales presentation has some drawbacks. So this selling of books or selling of cosmetics, particularly it happens in selling of more esoteric products or specialty products. It actually goes better with staple products or with shopping products, but the canned sales approach is a little difficult to deploy effectively in case of specialty products, because the advantages and benefits and the product features that you are bringing out actually may not be relevant for that particular buyer. So fab has to be something that makes sense immediately. So, and you cannot actually research. In this case, a door-to-door sales is often a cold sales call. So there you might not have had enough research done. Of course, like if you are actually selling water filter and you are approaching all the householders in a particular housing complex, then there will be some general facts that can be used. So you can start with the dissolved salt and minerals in the underground water in that particular housing complex area, and the problems faced with high iron content or the hardness of water and so on, etc. So these are problems that will be generic to that particular housing complex. So advantages and benefits of your product and therefore how they are brought out through features, the fab approach, can be common in this case. So this can work in the first, the person opens the door and you come up with these problems and the person is already aware of these problems, and so your call may then progress. But if it is cosmetics, then it is very personal. It is at the higher end of the product classification, and there actually it may not. The canned sales approach, the memorized sales presentation, is not suitable for highly technical products. It is often not suitable for highly personal products, but it is quite suitable for certain other products where the features are general, addressing the problems. Like if you are selling non-stick utensil, cooking utensil, then sticking of the food during frying of the food or cooking of the food is a common problem. And so if you have some solution in through your fab approach, then the canned presentation will work, memorized selling will work. So a situation which is generic to a particular target group of customers, matched with the advantages and benefits offered by your product or service, will lend itself well to the memorized sales approach. A complex product, a very personal product, may not be a good case for using the memorized sales presentation. Next comes the formula sales presentation. It is somewhat similar to the selling situation of water filters for a particular housing complex that I mentioned. So it is kind of a memorized sales presentation, but it is formula because it is responding to a common set of problems with a common fab. And here, because you are targeting a cluster of customers, prior research obtained through the discussions with one customer can give good inputs for the sales call on other similar customers. And therefore, you can actually bring out the problems effectively, give your solutions through a logical flow, and this is actually an improved approach to the canned sales presentation. So it is, in a way, not one size fits all type of approach in the canned presentation, that you are talking about some cosmetics and everybody you are calling upon, you are talking about the same kind of benefits offered by your product. You are actually matching the requirements of a target customer group with the advantages and benefits offered by the features of your product and service. And so there is a good logical matching and interest creation that can happen here. So the formula sales is kind of a what we call mass customization, not one size fits all, but one size that fits a group, one set of solutions that will fit a set of problems. So this is where it will ensure a reasonable amount of buyer-seller interaction, because one is operating in the arena of common interest. So for example, medical representatives, they use this formula sales approach a lot, because they are actually, suppose they are canvassing for a new blood pressure hypertension drug. So they are talking about the problems faced by a general group of sufferers, patients, to the doctor, and the doctor is interested in finding a solution to that set of problems. And therefore, if you in a formula presentation you bring out quickly with some flip charts and some good descriptions of the benefits and advantages of your product with respect to competitive products, the key features of your product in a logical, quick, crisp set of presentations, it will work very well. So in certain consumer goods, for example, a refrigerator, somebody who has come to buy a refrigerator, and you quickly make an assessment of the type of family that person comes from, whether it is a young couple, or it is a young couple with children, or it is a matured person with grown-up children, or it's a senior citizen person. So you know the class of your target customer group you are talking to, and you can immediately therefore highlight those advantages and benefits of your product. So in consumer durables and pharmaceutical type of products, the formula sales approach, which is an improved version of prepared sales approach, will be quite effective and quite widely used and gives good results. It should not be used if you do not know the prospect's needs, if you do not have enough information about the problem situation, or if you need to gather more information for a highly technical product in a particular application. So very specific one-to-one type of selling situation, that means a very customized very specific problem situation, the formula sales approach may not be very good. So, if you are selling, say, for example, an assembly line to an automotive plant, then certain part of the formula sales approach may work, but there will be many things that you will have to bring your presentation which will relate to that particular customer's needs and situations. So therefore, it is not very good. Also, the formula sales approach is not very good in a group to group selling situation. It can work in a conference, a good part of the conference or seminar demonstration or lecture demonstration type of thing. A good part can be based on formula presentation, but there will have to be room for questions, objections, comments, and so on. So you have to remember that. If you look at this diagram, which shows the time taken by the salesperson and by the customer. So you see here, if you start from the left, then during the approach stage, the maximum time should be given to the customer to talk. During the presentation stage, allow good amount of time to the customer to talk, which means that at that stage, your presentation is actually bringing out some key facts and triggering and encouraging, stimulating discussion. Very important. So the initial part in a complex sale, the presentation should aim at stimulating discussion. Allow the customer to talk more. As we will see in a discussion on spin selling that will come later, this initial part where the customer is encouraged to talk gives you very, very valuable insights that will help you to close a complex sales deal. So this approach is not for a canned sales presentation. This approach is not even for a formula sales presentation, but this diagram is for a problem solution flow based sales presentation. So the initial part, maximum time is given to the customer to talk. The salesperson should talk only to stimulate the discussion, to take it forward. But once, as you see on the right hand side, once the need awareness has crystallized, then the salesperson's presentation should expand and show how the need can be satisfied by the fab offered by the sales proposal. Okay? So be very conscious about this time allocation if your sales presentation is a need satisfaction or problem solution oriented presentation. So for a flexible interactive presentation, for a complex product or service, for a system sales approach, for a high value industrial or B2B sales situation, even for a high value consumer durable sales situation, you may have to use this need satisfaction or problem solution type of sales presentation, where in the initial part the customer talks, the salesperson only stimulates the conversation, and the salesperson comes into the play only when the need has crystallized, and then you come up with your advantages and benefits offered by your product or service, and see how those features can create advantage for the customer. So this type of need satisfaction sales situations are like if you are offering financial services, as I mentioned, some complex system, or high-priced consumer products like cars, vehicles, real estate, a large computer system, almost all kinds of industrial equipment. The sales presentation has to be this problem solution or need satisfaction type of presentation. And it needs a more control over the conversation, and therefore, if the preparatory work has not been done well, the customer is not actually very amenable to your conversation. The customer is not willing to give you much time. You do not have sufficient quality attention from the customer. Then of course the need satisfaction sales presentation will not work. Then in the opening gambit you may have to go for some kind of a formula sales, for some hard hitting messages offered in a very strategic manner. Then it can lead to a need satisfaction type of conversation. So be careful about just waiting for the customer to talk, and the customer is not willing to talk, or the customer really is busy with some other thoughts. Then this will not work. So be careful about again, as I mentioned, that when to use which tool, when to use which presentation technique. Be careful about the situation. The need satisfaction presentation process is also in some kind of complex sales situation. This is a very good one to use in the opening part, because as you know, in a complex sale or a high value industrial product sale, it is a long sales cycle. You may have to have several presentations and several encounters. So there actually this kind of problem solution flow will be good. Like for example, here there is an example given that where how you are using this need satisfaction. So the salesperson talks about the large manufacturing facility, how large it is. The buyer actually talks about. You can see here that the initial part is actually expanding on the situation. So these are all situational questions and answers, and then you are actually going into this problem area, and then you are actually leading to your kind of solution. So if you follow this conversation which is here, it gives you an idea of a need satisfaction sales presentation model. So pause your computer and look at this slide step by step. I'm not spending that time here, but you can easily follow this simple conversation. So these two slides are summarizing what I have been saying, that you choose problem solution sales presentation method when you are selling highly complex or technical product, and also when it is a long sales cycle and you have to make several sales calls at different stages, and you need to develop an in-depth analysis of the need situation. So you have to use this problem solution type of several sets of such discussions, which will lead finally to a comprehensive need analysis leading to a comprehensive presentation on the solution that you are bringing to the table. So the problem solution type of presentation, very useful for the types of products that I just explained, which is a high value industrial product, a high value consumer durable, or a complex system. These are the steps to follow. The convincing the prospect to allow the salesperson to conduct the analysis, to gather the data, to get the time, attention to gather enough facts for the actual analysis, and then finding some agreement with the customer with respect to the classification of the problem, prioritization of the different parts of the problem situation. And then only you can prepare a solution which is structured in response to the topmost part of the problem, and then some of the other middle ground problems, and then some of the base level fund. So your pyramid of features and benefits offered should match the pyramid of customers' perception about their problems, what comes first and what comes next, and accordingly you have to structure. So the problem solution presentation therefore will be successful only when you have been able to make the breakthrough to get enough attention and quality time from the customer for several sets of discussions. So which is the best method of sales presentation? The memorized, the formula, the need satisfaction, problem solution? The answer to that is simple, that there is no one single bullet. Each of these methods will be very good in a particular given situation, and very often situations are mixed. Sometimes you may actually start with a memorized presentation, but you may actually lead to a need satisfaction based longer presentation. So you can use these different types of presentation techniques at different stages of a same complex sale, or it may be complete in itself in the single stroke sale situation. So depends on the nature of the product. So whether it is a cooking utensil sale, or it is a water filter sale, or it is a cosmetic sale, or it is sale of a complex industrial product, sale of a computer system, sale of furniture, sale of real estate, sale of financial services, sale of pharmaceuticals. Each class will create situations which are sometimes somewhat similar across the target group of customers, many times absolutely unique, and sometimes it is generic. And depending on that, you mix and match your selling, presenting techniques. In this particular slide, which I leave with you as a concluding part of our discussion over several sessions on the sales process, the buying process, and the sales call steps, the sales encounter models. This slide kind of combines them all. So you have the selling process in the center, you have the buyer's mental evolution on the extreme right, and then you have this different types of selling techniques. And one of these techniques, which is very well structured and is good for most cases, particularly high value selling, is called spin, and that I will take up in a subsequent session. That's all for today. Thank you.